Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the District of Sechelt Committee of the Whole meeting of Wednesday, February 23rd. It is 3 p.m., actually 3:01 p.m. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Sechelt Nation. We have an agenda in front of us. Are there any declarations of conflict? Seeing none, I'd like, and there any other additional items, additions, deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And we will, first we'll receive all the reports. A motion to receive all the reports, moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And we'll move on to item 5.1, starting with the report from the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer. And is there anything you'd like to say to introduce this? Mr. Yates.
Thank you, Your Worship. No specific presentations, but we have a host of staff available to answer any questions that Council may have on the various reports.
Thank you. Council, any questions on the report from the Chief Administrative Officer? Yeah, a minute or so to go through the report. All right, seeing none, we will move on to the report on financial services and information technology. And I think we're going to have Mr. Douglas joining us for this one. Oh, and Ms. Smith.
Good afternoon. Actually, I'll present it if there's any questions towards it. Thank you.
All right, any questions? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, I just see that on here, there's mention of the technology improvements for council chambers.
Yes.
At a high level, what are we looking to do for this?
Oh, I think.
Good question, if I may, Your Worship. So there's, just in the back room, there's one more component that we have to add in the back room. We're looking at adding a couple new cameras and potentially new mics, and a TV on the back wall, not behind council, but opposite council. A large TV there. And got kind of big picture, that would be what we're looking for doing there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this report? While you're coming up with your questions, I want to say on the page 18, where you've got all the stats, it always boggles my mind the amount of correspondence that comes in and out, you know, through the district here. I mean, I think it's really revealing to the community, because they think, okay, I sent my email, why don't I get a response in 2 minutes? They start seeing the volume that comes in. I think they can understand that there's a lot that we're dealing with here, right? 64,099 emails were scanned, it said, right? Yeah, 40,584 emails received. That's in 3 months. That's a lot. Any other questions on the report? Seeing none, we will move on to the Director of Planning and Development. Councillor Todd.
Thank you. Looking at page 28 of the agenda package, I think it's 28, bylaw, tickets, complaints, what have you. Big jump for Q4 in the number of tickets issued. And I'm just wondering at a high level what we're seeing an increase of that's a ticketable offense. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. In this particular case, we have a commercial business operating without business license, opened without building permit for tenant improvements, and a series of fines to drive compliance is probably the reason for the particular jump here.
Thank you. Councillor McLean?
Yeah, another bylaw question. I recognize in the report that it says that a large amount of time is spent dealing with homelessness issues. So I'm just wondering, in the response, what partners do we have working with us? I guess RCMP, bylaw. Is there anyone else that is supporting that kind of response?
Yeah, great question. Certainly internally, bylaw provides a partnership with operations, public works, when it comes to cleaning up messes and so forth from encampments and needles and other refuse. We cooperate internally together on that. RCMP would be the primary. Seashell Fire, there's been some fire callouts. One of our bylaw officers also a firefighter, so certainly there's competing demands for time and service of employees in this issue.
Thanks.
Thank you. Council, any other questions on this report? Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I've actually got a few. And so I'm just looking at, I don't know what page it's on, but I was just looking at, all the applications that have come in for building lots and developments and stuff like that. So I'm just, I'm kind of wondering, like, so where do I start here? So Telus is moving ahead at a fairly good pace. High Point on Trail Avenue, a 36 lot or a 36 unit proposal, that they've been sort of underway for about 20 years and maybe even longer than 20 years. So are they actually going to do some, are they actually going to move ahead with something there?
Yep, that's our understanding. There was some stick handling to do with access through the existing original phase, and some negotiations there around the easement. The access will come in around from behind, and it's very much an active file, yes. And we hope to see it come through in the coming weeks here.
Yeah. Okay. And Trellis, our favorite topic here, or becoming our favorite topic. They've been, it's been probably 7 or 8 years in the planning, and we've narrowed it down to. Are we getting down to somewhere where they can actually start digging a hole or putting some 2x4s together? We've been talking about it for 6 months, and it's just one more thing. So are we getting close on that?
Indeed, great question. I appreciate the desire to see this one happen, and yes, we're very close. There's 2 things on the go here. There's a servicing agreement for the servicing relating to the subdivision, and engineering has produced that and has distributed to the property owners, and that's underway. Hasn't been executed yet, but that's very much underway. And following in behind that very closely are the building permit comments. It was a significant plan review for us, and there are a few issues respecting subsurface water, respecting firefighting, respecting fire resistance within the building, and we're getting very, very close to ironing those out. And when the servicing agreement is issued, we'll be in a position to issue the building permit. So just down to those small 3 items, and very much expect to see that issued very soon.
Okay. Yeah, okay, good. And so ebb tide, the 28 unit project on ebb tide, staff pretty much moved a mountain to get this guy underway. So are we hearing is he still an active in the active process?
Yes, still active, and you're right. We spent a lot of time on that one, getting it through the rezoning, and we're pleased with that process. He was working with his civil engineers on stormwater plan, because the property, of course, slopes away from ebb tide. So managing stormwater proven to be a challenge. Is it pumping it back up or dealing with it on site and so forth? So he has plans. He submitted them to us. We are awaiting the formal development permit application, and we'll certainly give it an expeditious review when we receive it.
Okay. So, and then another thing here, we have, there's quite a few properties that are just looking at a one lot subdivision. And I'm just wondering with that, so when you're doing a one lot subdivision, what are your expenses? Are they just development cost charges, or is there any, do you have to put in roads or sewer or anything like that? Or usually I think a one lotter is pretty simple, is it not?
Yeah, and it would certainly depend on the location. Some of those one lot subdivisions, depending on the configuration, if they both have proper full road frontage on an existing road, then that's a lesser expense. If one of them is at the back of a property and there's an undeveloped road beside the property running the length, then that may require some road building. But we've certainly turned our attention toward an adequate and suitable set of conditions, and working with applicants both in the pre-application phase, meeting weekly internally between planning and engineering to really come up with a fair and reasonable response to these types of applications.
Okay, and then I'm just looking, it's like fairway or underway. So, and what about, so the Van Key property? I guess there's new owners or new partners in that application there now. So do you think, I guess, if they got more work now that they have to do to bring this thing to, are we still working on the old application, but they're changing to 100 lots now. So that's a big change.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very much an active file. It has changed. New financial partners, new layout, increased density, but still a number of issues to work through respecting the sewer line extension and how that relates financially and relates to our specified sewage service area and so forth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay, then, and RTC, I mean, so RTC, they've got a development permit, but had they applied for a building permit yet?
Not yet, no. We're working on some of the items relating to the servicing agreement, particularly stormwater, so that we can find an alternative solution to a great big pipe running through Snicket Park. So some ground infiltration perhaps. They are working to coordinate with the Ministry of Transportation and BC Hydro respecting ducting for the future crosswalk. But we are getting close. We speak to them regularly. I think they found a new engineer that breathes some new life into that file, like a civil engineer. So it's moving forward, and they've also expressed commitment to carrying forward with the West Porpoise Bay property.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I was just looking at the list, and I'm going, it's quite an extensive list of projects, and I guess we're underway with some of this stuff. But some of it, I'm just looking at these guys, and some of these, whether, our staff is limited, and I'm just wondering, when some of these guys come in, should we be looking at, saying, okay, if you're going to do a 6-lot subdivision, you got to give us $30,000-$40,000, to prove that they're on their game, because lots of times they come in at, I can look through the list here, and there's some of these folks that have, they've come in like Excelsior, they come in and but that project's been underway for 10 or 15 years, and they come in, it's a huge project that I have no idea how the district of Sechelt would ever take that on and do other work, besides it, without hiring consultants or something like that. But just, it's just coming in. If you're going to do a project, come in and let's get underway. If you're coming in to waste our time, let's put some money up front. Just make sure you're honest and moving on. And I just hate to see these, we've been looking at some of this stuff for 4 years, well, 3.5 years, and it started before us. So, anyways, I just want to put that, I guess, put that out there that, you know, do we look at, you know, obviously somebody like TELUS is going to come in and they're going to come in and they're going to move things along, but you know, having a little bit of a development background, you know, I look at some of this stuff and I go, some of these guys, it looks really good to come in and say, yeah, I'm going to do this development in Seashell until they understand how much it's going to cost. Because all these things look like, it looks like developers make a pile of money, and I can take you and drive you around and show you a lot of developments that went broke in this community, and they've been finalized, but it's just somehow we have to make people now. I mean, I'm more aware now that most of this stuff is going through the process, but you know, it just, you know, it's a tough thing. It's like that Van Key project. I mean, holy smokes, you know, they get going and they don't realize how much money it's going to cost, or, you know, and they don't have the money behind them. And development now is costing so much money, and it doesn't matter where you go, what community you go into, it's a lot of money. So anyways, just maybe something to think about for the future. You know, and as a developer, if I walked in the door, you know, I hope that somebody would say, okay, Tom, you're going to put up $50,000 and we're going to start moving ahead, but you'll get your money back as we go through the process. But just to get their mind open that it's not a freebie, it's not a walk through the park. So, but anyways, I'm just going to make the comment that it looks like you guys got your plate full, and you know, carry on. You're doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McLean?
Yeah, thank you. So I looked to some of these building permit values and seeing it be 2.5 times more than last year. I also see the comment around the various inquiries that planning staff get. So I'm wondering, like, I guess my bigger question is, what varies? So you don't have 2.5 times the amount of staff to deal with that. So as a result, I would expect some of the response times to vary a little bit. So I'm wondering, is there any tracking being done on that kind of side? And can we provide some kind of expectation to the public about what kind of service levels they may receive, given the huge variance in the number of applications that we can see from year to year?
Yeah, no, great question. And just the total number of permits was 35% higher than 2020 as well, right? So one can debate about values being subjective, but the numbers of permits itself was up. So yeah, it's more difficult to book pre-application meetings with us. It's often now 2-3 weeks out before we're ready to have a meeting in that regard, as opposed to 2 or 3 days. You know, that's one area. Frankly, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but frankly, one of the areas that suffers is the ability to take the time to track and monitor when we're daily, the influx of emails and everything else, right? You know what I mean? I get nervous when I'm away from my computer for more than a couple hours. What am I going to come back to? You know, that's a part of it. But we are looking at a number of ways. We've done a lot of, I think, very strong staff reports and drafting of permits that have established a new threshold and a new template for us that have made things a little bit easier. We have a good handle on how to interpret the OCP when it comes to multi-unit buildings in downtown and so forth. So we're using the knowledge base that we've created in the last 2 or 3 years to propel us along the way, along with some talented staff, and we're building our team. But I would like to, in truth, spend more time on analyzing, you know, the types and amounts of inquiries we get, and the types of meeting requests that we get. And frankly, we've been declining some of them just out of priority and so forth.
Yeah, so I get that you probably can't do it now during these busy times, but just thinking about when it does go back down to that or the slower times, how can we kind of set those expectations, as well as having that kind of conversation with council? What are the priorities? because I can't imagine the challenge that you face as director balancing some of those long-term stuff like the zoning bylaw versus these active applications. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
providing an opportunity for policy direction from council on that when it's an appropriate time, and I don't think that's now.
Mm-hmm. But yes, you're likely correct, and have sort of cast it ahead to what a future strategic plan might look like, or long-term solidified work plan for this division and so forth, right? Building on that. But I mean, I think customer service is a core value of municipalities as well, and don't want to lose that. And the turnaround that we're able to offer, particularly when it comes to something like a downtown rental project. But I mean, the lot splits and do suffer. We don't have a staff person dedicated to those types of applications, right? And then they sort of fill in the gaps in our timeframes.
And it probably doesn't help that council requests that you look at short-term rentals either. and we know that's put additional work on you. We understand that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Lamb, you have your hand up. Did you have another question?
Yes, I did. I was just wondering, like, have we done much more work on CityWorks? Because doesn't CityWorks sort of track the progress of your project through the district office, or can it not do that? Track your project?
We use it for the development tracker and some of that background work. Yes, we're also introducing cloud permit, and that's happening imminently, whereupon ongoing building permits will be loaded into it. New building permits will be added to it. It'll be the paperless system, and that'll, from the building permit end of things, that'll help us tremendously and streamline our production.
Because I know some municipalities that, that you take your thing and you make your application, they give you a number and you can track it, and then you're not bothering staff so much.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull up your number on their website and move along. So we're not there yet.
Not yet, but it's a target to aspire to for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
In your spare time. Yeah, in your spare time. All right. Any other questions for our Director of Planning and Development? All right. Thank you. Let's move on to Engineering and Operations Division. And we have Ms. Lee with us today.
Good afternoon.
Any questions? Did you have something to put in up front? Anna?
No, I didn't have anything prepared, but available for questions.
Thank you. All right, I don't see any questions yet. I have one. Go way to the end of the report. We'll go to mine first, Councillor Lamb. On page, let me see if I can find it again. It's way at the end, I think. Yes, it's on the last page of the report, actually. It talks about Hackett Park Playground, and I don't know if you have this answer. It talks about the fact that the RFP closed on September 29th, 2021, and Hackett Play Systems was selected. So I'm just wondering where we are with in the process of that.
I don't specifically know the lead time on the delivery of that, but I can certainly follow up with Parks and find out where that's at.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions on the engineering report? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, thank you. A sewer question. I noticed that it mentions that there's a significant amount of time invested in cleaning fats, oils, and greases from the system from the downtown source. I've been seeing this for a while, so I'm wondering if we've done any work to try and track the source of this and what can be done to try and limit some of these deposits in our system.
Yeah, good question. Certainly there's been efforts in tracking it, cameraing the pipes and trying to find out which specific locations they're coming from. In some instances, we've been successful in narrowing down the specific location where it's coming from and talking to that owner. In other areas, it's a more broad range and difficult to pinpoint. So yeah, in short, yes, we are trying to track down those specific locations and doing our best to educate the owners, as well as doing preventative maintenance.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb?
Yeah, I was just wondering about wastewater, the wastewater treatment plant now. Are we fully staffed there now?
Yes, we are fully staffed.
Okay, and that with the Dusty Road facility, in the past, we've had, you know, a few complaints from the fellas that use it to dump their waste there. Are we managing to support them? Have we found a better way to support them in their needs?
Yeah, good question. We have been working with them to try to find a different scheduling plan to be sure that we're available to them when they're coming, as well as working around our staff schedule. So it has been improving, and they've certainly, I think, found it better, or has been the feedback. And it's been working with our staff as well.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, okay. I'm just wondering if there's been any further consultation on the lease in that for that facility. I think it's due in 2031 or something like that. We're
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. So the lease expires in 2031, and we're looking to do some successional planning for our septage receiving and for that site as well. And that's something that we'll be working on in 2022 to try to form kind of a framework for how to move forward to still satisfy that service and comply with our lease. So that will be upcoming.
okay. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to refer to page 43, and it's page 14 in the report. It talks about the rain that we encountered on November 14th through 16th, and I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the staff for the work that they did. I know shortly after that I did a tour, a meet with the staff, and they indicated that they basically worked, I think it was 36 hours straight, manning the computers so that, because the computers themselves wouldn't deal with the volume, and they recognized that and were proactive in getting in and just making sure that it ran and functioned through that without us having any issues. So I just want to say thank you to them and to you as their supervisor for all the work that you did to support the community there. Thank
you very much for that. I will certainly pass that on to the staff of the WRC. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other questions on the engineering report? All right, seeing none. Thank you all. Thank you, staff, for being here. Thank you for putting all the work into these reports and bringing them before us and before the community. I would look for a motion to adjourn. Moved.